by the body to do that by creating it almost has to, but I can't say for certain because we haven't proven it.
Okay.
But if it does so at the cellular level with ions, there's no reason why that shouldn't occur.
Okay.
I know that I have seen significant improvement in cerebral conductivity and neurotransmitter balancing, especially with, I have a couple of older people who've been doing this for a while. They just celebrated their 64th anniversary. And, they're 87 and 85. And they just had very significant change in their cardiovascular physiology and their brain physiology since being on Teratol for about 3 months.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have another question.
Can Teratol increase ferritin levels?
Can Teratol increase ferritin levels?
Well, if ferritin is being blocked by other heavy metals and or is having the spleen itself, not the liver but the spleen, is one of the major filters for heavy metals and chemicals, as is the liver. Primary detox pathways are through the liver, cytochrome P450 pathway, etc. Over time, as you unburden those two hemopoietic organs, the liver and the spleen, clean the lymphatic system, you're going to see a stabilization of a number of the cationic transporters, with ferritin being one of them. One of the other things we do see changes in is in bilirubin and creatinine. And also what's called the GFR, the glomerular filtration rate. We've seen significant improvement with people, and this takes, 12, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, you're talking 3 to 6 months of steady use. I've also had quite a number of beneficial responses in younger people. And this is one of the things that I did want to talk about, is the dosing, how we dose Teratol. I often open the capsules and put it in about 4 ounces of warm water, shake it up, and I will split that dose over 4 doses daily for an adult, and 2 doses daily for someone who's maybe anywhere from 5 to 12, 13 years old. So I consider prepubescent pediatrics, because kids don't get near enough minerals, and they don't metabolize enough minerals from the foods they eat. And while there'll be a little bit of undissolved material at the bottom, you just really hydrate it, and it doesn't taste bad at all. In fact, it tastes good. It's a lot more palatable for people that can't swallow capsules and so forth, and you can fractionate the dose, as we say. It's how we give it to our horses, how we run it through the pig house. So why not do it with people? And so a liquid transport system, by just teaching people how to open a capsule and put in the tea, put it into water, or dispense it based on size and weight, tends to be a good way to control the dose applied to people also. And it's I think, better tolerated that way, to give more fractional doses over time during the day. So that's something for those of you that are using it can try if you'd like to. We have seen a pretty significant influence of the Teratol on especially gastrointestinal flus and viruses this winter, at least in our experience. Coupled with probiotics and certain other interventions, but the Teratol definitely is well tolerated and helps to change the biological terrain of the bowel, which is where predominant amount of microbial activity does take place in the body. And just like anywhere else, there is a milieu there of bacteria, viruses, good microbes, bad microbes, funguses, yeast of all ilks. Teratol seems to stabilize the biological terrain of the bowel and facilitate the proliferation of beneficial bacteria and therefore minimizing, by competitive inhibition and changing the terrain, bad gut bacteria. So I think that's a predominant mechanism of action here. That the GI is especially the small bowel, is the big key to health.
Would it do anything for gout? Does he know?
Might it do anything for gout?
I would think over time it would, because you have deposition of uric acid, and really all gout is uric acid that's precipitated out, like having too much sugar in an iced tea. And really what occurs with Teratol is humic acid is to take minerals and move them back into solution. I think would be a long-term solution, but I know for a fact personally, I had a pretty sore left big toe joint for a long time here the last year, and I've tried a lot of things on it, and since I'm on Teratol and walking regular again, and we had a tough winter up here, so I wasn't getting out and doing as much exercise as I was. I have little or no joint pain in there any longer, and so I would think it helps to mobilize crystalline deposits throughout the body over time. I think it's one of the primary mechanisms of action, and that it is auto-regulatory. I think that's, the influence is so broad that actually the distal renal tubules in the kidney are what determine whether you have an excess or a need to recycle minerals. And by facilitating the liquidity and the availability of the minerals, and also binding and helping to excrete heavy metals, I think we can improve kidney health, and that process is auto-regulatory. The body chooses what to keep or what's in excess. So yeah, I think over time, that is a condition that would be improved with the use of Teratol.
What about GMO? Is he familiar with maybe some of the GMO side effects and how Teratol might affect those?
Someone was asking, because a lot of the speeches have been about GMOs, if you know about any GMO effects and whether Teratol might address those.
I do not. I know where I stand on that whole thing. I think the abrogation of our God-given right to raise our food and use what's been put on the planet for everybody is heinous. And I think that manipulating a lot of these genetics is, for a long time, has caused problems. I'm not a big fan of oranges. And everybody's like, why? Well, oranges were one of the first GMO foods, but nobody talks about it because it was so darn long ago. We've been dicing and splicing genes since, 100 years, 150 years, going all the way back to their little monk checking out his pea pods and originally coming up with the whole genetic theories. And so, I think that, anything we can do to maintain indigenous and eco-indigenous plants, that grow where they were originally intended to grow. You see, every time we make an intervention, you get downsides. Up here in Pennsylvania, I'm 55, so let's say 45 some years ago, we brought in Multiflora rose. Did anybody know what Multiflora rose is? It was a rose bush that was supposed to be great for cover and so forth. Well, we belonged to Beagle Club and we put it in there. Just somebody forgot to ever figure out when they engineered it how to kill it. So we had Multiflora rose bushes, and then whenever a tip hits the ground, it's like a raspberry bush. You know how they go, don't you? Mm-hmm. They go in and make a rhizome. So now you had these things lapped over each other, and big old, well, you couldn't get a grizzly bear through a Multiflora rose patch. You had to live with bulldozers and bulldoze a whole bunch of it. It was just a mess. Okay? We've seen it out west with spotted knapweed and other things like that. Take a horse from back east, he doesn't know what he's eating. You take him out west, boy, he'll eat that stuff and die just quick as can be. You know, so things are meant to grow where the good Lord planted them, and they're there for a reason. And you know, that's more philosophy than you need to know about, because I'm pretty sure most people there are singing out of the same page on that hymn book. But you know, I think anything we can do to remediate, minimize it, and grow our own seeds and re-clean soybeans and plant them, and re-clean corn and plant it and so forth, and get the soil to be the way it was, fertile and clean, and not codependent on toxic man-made petrochemical fertilizers. I think that's a good thing. I'm all for it.
They said amen.
Amen.
Sorry, I was preaching. I'm sorry. Got a little bit of that in my background. Sorry.
Fred, I got one more.
Okay.
Will the Terratol,
Yep, I'm sorry.
will the Terratol lower high CO2 levels in the blood?
Will Terratol lower high CO2 levels in the blood?
That's been our experience. Absolutely. So people that have like you talking about someone that might have COPD or have some sort of compromise to the vascular or the respiratory system. Yeah, you follow that physiology trail I laid down earlier. You really, for someone that's got that challenge, you want to minimize carbohydrate intake, because carbohydrates lead to yielding water and carbon dioxide. It is the number one organic acid that humans have to buffer. That's why we respirate. That's why we got big lungs. Okay? When they get compromised, we start to pull down our buffer system. So a person that has respiratory distress needs to get bicarbonate into their system. They need to get good sources of vitamin D. They need to get Terratol going on in there. They need to eat vegetables that grow above the ground, not under the ground. They need to meats and fish and fowl and fats for fuel instead of carbohydrate, because the sugars, the carbohydrate, the body doesn't recognize. One's a fast burner, one's a slow one, one's a sugar, one's a fructose, one's a this or that. You know, you can eat to minimize the impact of that carbon dioxide excess and respiratory insufficiency. So it's a complex of things that you have to do, but Terratol is definitely a big player there. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for having me on here today by Skype. It saved me a 3-day trip, and I just want to thank Randy for introducing me to Terratol, and I look forward to